Hello, my Crystal Loves Texas podcast family and my Facebook family. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited to be here. This is a really, really special podcast and the beginning of a very, very special series. That is our series on inclusion. And we're going to be doing that the entire month of January. Inclusion in so many different ways. But today is a very special day because we have got the organization Coalition for Barrier-Free Living. And we've got a great panel. Look at my panel. We got a great panel in here today, and they're going to tell us a little bit about the organization and why it's so important to have this organization in Houston, and more so than that, give people information about how they can connect to the organization, how they can support the organization, and how they can learn to utilize services provided by the organization. No one should be in a situation where they feel that they do not have access. Access is everything these days. And today we're going to learn a little bit more about access. My guests, I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. I always do that because it's so hard for me to remember everything about everybody. So it's always good if guests get to introduce themselves. But I'm going to start from my left. And introduce yourself, please, Miss Maria.
My name is Maria Orozco.
My name is Jason Jones.
And my name is Ana Urena.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And of course, we have got Rebecca who is in there, and I'm going to bring her in right now. Hey, Rebecca, are you there?
I am.
Rebecca.
How are you?
Rebecca is my co-host. She is here every week, and Rebecca's going to let me know if I start shining and sweating. We don't want that to happen. So if I need to pat my face down a little bit, we're going to make sure that happens. But the first person that I want to talk to, because we got a lot to talk about today, is Ana Urena. Ana, tell us a little bit more about the coalition, and how did the coalition get started?
Wow, we have our history based.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna stop you because I got off key. Jason is going to tell us that. Jason is the person who's going to tell us about the history. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm just getting everybody all discombobulated. But Jason. Well, first of all, before you tell us about the history, tell us about yourself, because I hear you are a multi-talented person.
Well, my name is Jason Jones, everybody. Hello. I'm so glad you guys are able to tune in.
Hi, Jason.
It is such a delight to be here. Thank you, Crystal, for allowing us the opportunity to come and grace your presence on this wonderful evening. And so a little bit about myself. I am originally from the Motor City of Detroit, Michigan.
Woo!
And so I'm the second oldest out of 5.
Okay.
And so, understanding the importance of family and inclusion, you learn about sharing, you learn about all the different things that families have to deal with on a daily basis. But the most important thing is learning to love each other and embrace each other and where we are and who we are.
Yes.
And the gifts and talents that we have. And so I am also the first person out of my immediate family to graduate high school and college.
Wow.
And
that's
so
awesome.
I have a bachelor's degree in religious studies and music from Mary Grove in Detroit. And then went to Atlanta to pursue my master's degree in mental health counseling at the wonderful Clark Atlanta University.
Yes.
And so it has been a joy for me to be a part of such an organization and such a movement, because that's what it is. It's a movement.
Well, Jason, just in saying that, that's a whole lot. And guys, that's just about Jason. So when he starts to tell us about the organization, I know we're going to learn a whole lot. But Jason, now, this is something that I got a little bit confused. Now, tell me the difference between the Coalition for Barrier-Free Living and the HCIL. What is the difference? Or are they part of each other?
So they are a part of each other. So let me just give you a little bit of history.
Okay.
So if we were to go back down memory lane a little bit, back to 1963.
That's the year I was born.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Oh, I just told my age. Okay.
That's all right. That's all right.
Okay.
You know, we age gracefully.
Thank
Okay?
you.
So if we go back to 1963, we discovered an individual by the name of Ed Roberts.
Okay.
And Ed Roberts was sort of the catalyst for putting the independent living movement together.
Yes.
Try to imagine yourself in a wheelchair.
Yes.
You're in a decade or in a time period where there are no curb cuts.
Yep.
There are no ramps.
Yes.
There's no accessibility for folks with wheelchairs, walkers, or any other assistive device.
Right.
And so Ed Roberts was the person to say, hey, listen, we are just as important as those you may see who are able-bodied.
Absolutely.
Because during the time, there was a time where people with disabilities were treated less than.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so when we bring the history together, he was the one that brought other players into the game, such as Justin Dart,
Okay.
Lex Frieden, who was a part of the Metro Board,
Okay.
and also Judy Heinen, who was a major catalyst in presenting things such as the Rehabilitation Act of 1973,
Okay.
and also what would come to be the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990.
Okay.
Okay.
I remember that. I remember when that passed. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually 7 years old when that passed. So,
oh, you're trying to make me feel bad. What's up with that, Jason?
So when we think about it, so this is where the coalition comes into play, because in 1975, that's when the Coalition for Barrier-Free Living was formed.
Okay.
And so it was with the mission that we believed that people with disabilities have a right to make choices.
Yeah.
A right to take risks.
Yeah.
A right to fail and a right to succeed.
Right.
Okay. And
right.
so we bring in that because that leads up to 1978, where the Houston Center for Independent Living first opened their doors.
1978.
1978.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and HCIL, also, which is the acronym,
right,
was established on three principles: advocacy, empowerment, and initiative.
Okay.
Okay. And those three principles would lay the foundation of what would be to come as we would journey along to leading up to the Americans with Disabilities Act becoming law.
Right.
And understanding the power or the principle of the inclusion, and understanding that people with disabilities have a right to live as independently and as comfortably as possible.
Yes. You know, with that in mind, and Rebecca, you can kind of chime in here because you have a relative who lives with the disability every day.
Yes, I do.
And you know that some of the I'm not going to say barriers, but some of the hardships that he has come up against, and what you guys and your family have had to do to try to advocate for him. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So the relative that Crystal is speaking of is my brother. Mm-hmm. He's 8 years older than me, and he has autism.
Right.
When he was first diagnosed with autism, he was 2 or 3 years old. But because his case was so relative, meaning it wasn't that many children at that particular time, they didn't know what it was. It was very rare. Just to give a little bit of background story, my parents spent about $10,000 from Texas to California to get him treated because he was nonverbal at that time.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, so that was, we talking about 1978, 1979. So that's close to like $40,000-$50,000 that they spent trying to figure out what was going on with him.
Okay.
And ironically, coming back to Houston, they figured out, okay, he does have autism.
Right.
But they didn't know what spectrum of autism, because none of that was the case like it is now.
Right, because there's so many advancements, even in being able to diagnose different types of disabilities that people have. I remember, I'm older than everybody in here, but I remember when someone with a disability, it may have been a physical disability, but someone with a disability was automatically put in what they called a special class. Yep. That person could have been a genius. But if they had a disability, they got moved to the special class. And now we know that that if you were able to take away these barriers, that people with disabilities can perform, and in many cases outperform their able-bodied um, uh, contemporaries.
And that was the case with my brother. Luckily, we had my family just had a wonderful support system.
Yes.
The church that we belong to and that we currently belong to, the pastor at that church
Yes.
sent every single educator, and there was a lot of them, to
Yeah.
conferences, to professional developments. He sent them to help my mom and dad
Right.
figure out, and it was like 20, 30 teachers at the
Yes.
church. And my pastor sent every last one of them to professional developments.
Right.
And because he was also an educator himself, so they all went and they learned and they read and they learned and they read and they worked with my family until
Right.
he was grown.
Wow.
So
That's awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
so they had that support system for him. And then my parents being educated, they also had doctor friends, psychiatrist friends. So everybody kind of like pitched in to
Yes.
figure out what was going on and to help him and to help in his learning and to help in his overall development. Now, I
Yeah.
do realize, just listening to those stories, that that's not everybody's situation. Like, we
Right.
were fortunate enough to be surrounded around people who were like,
A
okay,
village.
we're
A
gonna
village.
dig our right, we're gonna dig
Right.
our heels in and figure it out and help you along the way.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we've heard stories where that's not the case. Like,
And
people
many times, yeah. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Crystal.
Many times that's not the case. And the thing about it is, especially, Jason is from a metropolitan area. Maria, Anna, everybody in here probably is from a metropolitan area where there are a lot of access to services. Imagine if somebody's from a small town.
Yep.
Right.
And they don't, and nothing against school districts in small towns, but so many times they don't have the access, they don't have the ability or the funds to make sure that there is inclusion for everyone who is there and who may need specific services. Really quickly, I'm going to turn to Maria. Maria, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you came to know and be able to connect with the coalition.
With the coalition, Barrier Free Living, this was going to take me back to 1995.
Okay.
4th of July. That's when I happened to go to a payphone. Back then, no smartphones. We had beepers.
Yes.
So 4th of July, I happened to go
Yes.
to a payphone, and somebody did a drive-by.
Wow.
And I have 2 bullets in my spinal cord injury.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Definitely paralyzed.
Yeah.
Completely paralyzed. But after 2 years, my feeling came back.
Yeah.
I was a single mother already of a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Wow.
So it took me 2 years to step a foot out of my house.
Yeah.
Because it was a whole different world.
And the thing about it,
Trauma.
yeah, and the thing about it is, Maria, you hear that kind of story, and the sad part about it, y'all, is that you hear about that kind of stuff still happening right now.
But right now, it's nothing new, though.
That's the sad part.
Yeah. Nowadays, it's nothing new. And so finally, I happened to go to, somebody invited me to HCIO.
Yeah.
It was Houston Center for Independent Living by then. And so I was like, yeah, I want to learn computers, do something for my kids.
Yes.
So I went into class, so embarrassing, I'm using the mouse backwards and everything. And so I was like, oh, okay, I want to do more for it.
Yes.
Let me volunteer.
Yeah.
And so the more I volunteered, the more I learned. And like, you know what? We're looking for receptionists, as a temporary. I'm like, oh, cool. Me using my mouse backwards and everything. So little by little, I just grew in HCIL. And I was like, wow, people that, built this with disabilities to serve people with disabilities.
Yes.
I just became more alive, like, wow, there's a world out here for us.
Yes.
And so, they will advocate and everything. And then little by little, as I grew into my disability, accepting my disability as a single parent, the more I met parents, young ladies and everything. And I was like, oh my God, I'm advocating, I'm showing these ladies, and I'm having parents coming back to me like, thank you so much for talking to my daughter. I was like, well, I
Yes.
didn't do nothing. Like, you did a
Yeah.
lot just talking to her.
Just seeing you go on with your life and do the things that you want to do, just that in itself is what inspires so many people.
Mhm.
And then from there, I started driving
Yes.
and then working. They're like, man, you just miss independent. And I was
Yes.
like, well, I have to force myself.
You got kids to take care of. Yeah.
Yes, and then just Metrolift. I just go do a Metrolift no more.
Yeah.
Buying tickets and everything. And so for now, I've going on 20 years working for the Houston Center for Independent Living.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That is awesome. And the thing is, and I'm gonna bring you in right here because I want you to tell us a little bit more about some of the different types of services that the center actually provides.
Yeah, our center is providing services to the everyday consumer. We
Yeah.
provide services. We have 4 different departments,
Wow.
which deal with 4 different aspects
Okay.
of community life.
Okay.
And they're gonna be here, I believe, next week to talk more about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm gonna leave that there.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a teaser.
Yes.
That's a teaser.
Yes, it was.
That is a teaser, ladies and
It
gentlemen.
was. We do have. This is a series, and I think the next episode we get into services.
Yes.
But right now, what I want to focus on, if you don't mind,
Yes.
is our new location.
Yes.
We
Tell me about
just
that.
moved this summer in
Yes.
Houston, Texas.
Now, before you go to the new location, for those people who are maybe familiar, where was the old location?
The old location was close to Plazas Americas Mall.
Yes.
That's on Bonhomme.
Yes.
That was where we were previously, but
Wow.
currently we're now on the west side
Okay.
of Houston.
Yes.
In the west wing of our building at this perfect address called 1111151 Willcrest Green Drive.
Wow.
And we're starting consumer services as of next year, January 2023. January 3rd, we're letting our consumers come back in our center.
Yes.
And basically get everything they can from it, from classes to advocacy support,
Yes.
to anything they might need with housing. We are there to provide, and
Yes.
that is just astounding because we've been closed for so long, but we are reopening January 3rd of
Now, you say you've been
2023.
closed for so
Yes.
long. Did the COVID pandemic affect you guys?
Oh, tremendously.
Really?
It did.
Wow.
We do our classes. Our classes went virtual basically now.
And it's not the same. I love virtual because I'm a teacher and we had to teach virtually.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's just not the same.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
And especially for the population that we serve as people with disabilities,
Yeah.
Especially even with my disability of having a visual impairment,
Yes.
it is virtually impossible to teach Braille virtually. it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, virtually.
That
Sounds a little frustrating.
Now, if you figure out somebody who can do it, then
Listen.
let me know. I want them on the show.
Shoot me a text, shoot me a link or something, okay?
Yes.
Look, because they need a job immediately.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Now, you said that many of your services moved to virtual. When that happened, did you see a lot of your client participation start to dwindle down a little bit? Because well, let me just say this: if people are kind of like me, a lot of participating in workshops, it's the camaraderie of actually coming there and getting to see other people and interact.
Correct.
Did you find that stifle at all a lot of your people in participating?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just the whole idea of technology, people
Yes.
were scared of jumping on Zooms, but
Yeah.
somehow or another we did create sort of a just a consensus on Facebook.
Yes.
And on our different platforms. We created a consensus where we do have participation of people, and we do encourage the participation of anyone who's out there wanting to learn more. We have Women on the Move classes.
Okay.
We have
Tell me about that. What's
Women
that?
on the Move. Oh, it's one of our satellite centers. They put on different programs.
Okay.
Yes, to encourage. The one in January, I believe it's leaving 2022 behind and leaping into 2023, which is exciting.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
it's a concept that is so just universal.
Absolutely.
Just being able to start over again and
Right.
in the right path.
Exactly.
So I mean, we have that going on. We have Martin Luther King celebration hosted by one of our satellites for January. So yeah, we do have a large gathering. We are on Facebook. I encourage anybody who's out there wanting to engage in these
Yes.
virtual events to look us up on Facebook as Houston CIL Center
Okay.
for Independent Living. That
Okay.
stands for. Just send us an email. Well, once we've got you on our constant contact portal, that way you can receive email messages monthly on our weekly activities.
Okay, let me ask you all this, and I want each one of you to, especially Maria and Jason, speak to this a little bit. So many times people have a situation similar to yours, Maria, where you were one day completely able-bodied and then your whole life changed. And you've got to talk to other people who sit in that situation. What words of encouragement and steps would you have people or suggest people take first to make sure that they understand that that's not where your life stops?
Well, for example, one young lady, she was in denial. They're like the suicidal, want to take pills,
Yeah.
and mom will find her in the room, and she's like, I heard about this program.
Right.
How can I help you with my daughter?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let me talk to her. Of course, she don't know who I am.
Yeah.
She don't know. She probably like it's just another able body wants to talk to me.
Yeah.
Probably another doctor.
Yeah.
But one day I was like, no, bring her up here.
Right.
Trick her. Say something. You go to a doctor's appointment. You
Exactly.
Go
How
there.
old was she?
She came.
The young
She
lady.
was young, like 19, 20
Wow.
years old.
Very young. Yeah.
Very young. And then she came in there, and her eye just blew up because she sees us nothing but people with disabilities.
Yes.
We have a couple of ladies in the power chairs, manual chairs.
Yes.
Jason, I don't think you were there yet.
Right.
But we had nothing but people with disabilities.
Y'all running the office.
So
Yeah.
she was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if she was on medication or what, but she just kind of like froze in shock.
Wow.
So I was like, come here, my name's Maria. Oh, your mom always calls me Marie.
Uh-huh.
So come on, let's talk in here. And that day, we particularly had Women on the Move. Women
Yes.
on the Move is kind of more of a support.
Yes, support group.
And
Yes.
the thing is, all ages.
Wow.
And so the more, she liked it. At first, she felt weird. But the more she came, because Annabelle Rios is the host of the thing, and she's young.
Yes.
So she brought it in, young is no one, over age or
Yeah.
whatever, boring or whatever. So she got excited. She started coming there.
Wow.
And then she goes, but Marie, how can I do this? And then she started like, look, let's go outside.
Yeah.
You see, this is our drive. Well, how? Hand controls and
wow, you showed her your vehicle.
Yes, so
yeah.
you have to be visual with these
Yes.
individuals because we hear a lot.
Yes.
But once you become visual with these individuals,
yes,
you give them comfort.
Right.
Like they're tired of just hearing this, hearing that, and then I gave it a lot of comfort. And the thing is, our goal there at HCIO is to advocate and provide resources for these individuals.
Yes.
Because who else is not going to understand these individuals calling us but us?
Right.
We've been there and done that.
Yes.
Yep.
And we're still fighting. There's still, the accessibility that we're still fighting, whatever, but we make it happen.
How have you seen things change since 1995?
And a lot of changes.
Yeah.
Because why? Because the thing is, if you go into any public store,
Yes.
guess what? They better have a ramp, because if you're
Yes.
serving the public,
That's against
guess
the
what?
law.
It's just one phone call. They're gonna have to make it happen or
Yes.
shut down.
Yes.
Because if it works for us,
Right.
it works for all.
That's right.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of changes now. Apartments, well, fortunately, as long as you can get an apartment with a ramp, hey,
Right.
guess what? That's reasonable enough.
Yes.
But if can you get in the restrooms on the rooms?
That's right.
You know what? Unfortunately, that's on us.
That's right.
But by law,
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but just to
No, that's
piggyback
okay.
on what Maria was saying,
Right.
do the center provides like mental health services for people who all of a sudden they were living this full fantastic life and then for whatever reason they became disabled? Do y'all have any mental health services to help people kind of transition with that trauma and to deal
Now,
with that?
I think that that's what Anna said. She did not want to
Oh,
do
I'm
too much of a
sorry.
teaser on that, because
Mhm.
those people will be here next week, and they're actually going to tell about all the different services that are offered. But
I
think
apologize.
that's okay.
No, but
That's
okay.
okay.
I can answer in short
Yeah.
of some.
Yeah.
It's not more into the medical. It's support group on venting out.
Yes.
Sometimes when you go to a support group and you vent down, guess what? That does a lot for us.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
that's
does a lot
fair.
for us,
That's
because
true.
you're venting out to someone that's what,
Like
not
yourself.
able bodied, but
That's in the
has some
same
kind of disability.
situation.
That's right.
So
Right.
venting out sometimes does a lot.
Now, and Maria touched on something very, very important. Since the ADA Act, any public building, like she said, any public building, or even if you want your private building or business to be successful too, you better have some accommodations for people with disabilities when they come in, so that you're not missing any business. If you're a smart business person,
Mhm.
you're going to do that.
And guess what? Who's on our side? Channel 13 and Channel
All the
26.
time.
Yes,
They're gonna
yes.
be there. They're gonna be there.
That's right.
All the time.
Because the truth be known, and then I'm going to ask Jason that same question. The truth be known, all you have to do is turn your head to the left or to the right in your own family, and not go too far outside of your nuclear family, your immediate family, to see that there are going to be people with different types of disabilities.
Right.
Because it's in every family. In every family. Now, Jason, I'm going to ask you that same thing.
Mhm.
Now, your situation is different. Did you have a visual impairment from birth, or did you become visually impaired as you got older?
Yes, ma'am. So my visual impairment started at birth.
Okay.
And it was due to a rare condition known as retinoblastoma, which is cancer of the eyes.
Okay.
Okay. And so at birth, they found that I had a cancerous tumor in both eyes.
Okay.
And what they had to do was, conduct immediate surgery to remove the tumors, which they were able to do successfully.
Okay.
However, as a result, it rendered me totally blind.
Okay.
And so, and during that time, now mind you, again, I was born in '83, so
Yes.
it was 7 years before the ADA.
Right.
But yet, there were still some measures that were slowly but surely in place due to the activists that were mentioned earlier in this podcast.
And this was in Michigan.
Yes.
Or was it? Yes, this is in Michigan.
This
Okay.
is in Michigan. And so the thing of it is that when you talk about inclusion,
Yes.
my parents were the ones that said, if this is the only challenge you have, we're going to work with that.
That's right.
Because number one, my other siblings, neither did my parents or other relatives in the family serve pity on me because of my visual impairment.
Right.
If anything, let them tell it. They'll say, man, he was the man in the house when he was a little kid. So,
Yeah.
And he did his own thing. And that's how it was. And of course, as you come into your own, you're understanding people who have been visually impaired all their lives, such as myself,
Right.
versus someone who once had their sight.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Yeah.
And I have a few friends of mine who have been in both situations.
Wow.
And so I remember one person I met in Atlanta, very similar to what Maria was talking about.
Yes.
This particular person in Atlanta was visually impaired to the point where this individual had became visually impaired due to being shot in the face.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And the crazy part about it is they knew the person who did it. They knew the person who did
Wow.
it. And like when Maria was talking about her, the young lady being in denial.
Yeah.
This person was not only in denial, he was angry.
Okay.
This person was angry.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
but that was probably at least to a certain degree a natural reaction, at least for a period of time.
Yeah, and it is for a period of time until once again you see visuals.
Okay. Yeah.
And when you see people in the community who have the same disability as you navigating the system.
That's right.
You know, and I'm sure that everyone catches on faster or slower than others. But the truth be told, I have a quote that I came up with recently that brings all of this together. And that quote is simply this: you acknowledge the disability, but you value the person.
I love it.
You acknowledge the disability,
value
the person, because the disability is only a part of you. It does not define who you are, because as far as I'm concerned, the worst disability that you could ever have is excuses.
That's right. That's absolutely. Oh my gosh! Tell some of my kids that in my eighth grade class.
You know, and it's so important for those who, you know, for those of you who are watching us who have you may be a parent of a child with a disability. Let me help you understand something. You know, it is so important to teach your children how to advocate for themselves early. Not to say that you're not going to be the voice for them, but let them be the voice first in what they do. Teach them how to say yes and no. Teach them how to help, you know, how to understand the differences between right and wrong, even with a disability.
Right.
You know, because I was doing everything from chores to you name it, I did. And then even some of the people who know me now, they're like, Jason, I think you can see. Yeah. Even some of my own coworkers, they'll say, Jason, I think you can see, man, because you're doing all this, you know. And I mean, I've done everything from, you know, being active as a kid in sports to music, because I am a music person. Yes, I am a vocalist.
Yes.
Okay.
Nice. Yes.
And so, and those are just some of the gifts that God has given me. And I truly believe that if you maximize your gifts, that's how you introduce yourself to more open doors.
You're absolutely right.
And you know what? Jason is so right, because I look at my brother and I'm in awe of him sometimes.
Yes.
Now, I know that, you know, he'll never be able to pay bills and all of that because his disability won't allow him to do that. But I just see him thrive in other things. And Crystal can attest to this.
Yes.
Like, I see him thrive in like other things. Like, he is the cleanest, neatest person in the entire universe.
He goes around your neighborhood, and your neighbors depend on him for certain things. And I mean, he is useful in that aspect. And it's something that he reached out and he said, I want to help my neighbors in this way.
Right. He collects their garbage cans. He takes their recycle stuff and put it in the right cans and leave it. Like, you know, and everybody just on my street is just like so grateful to him, especially our elderly neighbors who can't necessarily do those things for themselves. He cuts grass. He does it all. Like, you know, it's a running joke in my family that he has more sense than everybody in the family. But that was important to my mom and dad. They said that, you know, they wanted him to have some sense of normalcy
and responsibility.
Right. Yeah. So Jason is absolutely right. And people used to look at my mom funny when she would discipline him. She was like, no, he understands. And he has to live in a world where he has to be disciplined like everybody else.
That's right.
Like, his disability is not an excuse for that.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And Rebecca, I'm going to get you, I'm going to turn a question and ask Anna something, but I want to get you to take a look at some of those comments and so that we can address some of them. But Anna, let me ask you this. Now, beautiful young lady, very well spoken. What made you decide that your choice of employment would be working with an organization that relies so much on helping others? You could have been a PR person for the Texans or the Rockets or some of those places like that. But you felt that your gift would best be lended to this organization? Why was that, and how did you decide that this was your calling?
Correct. Thank you for phrasing that so correctly. But my calling, I think, came from my history in public service.
Yes.
I was in public service as a volunteer. I volunteered for a senior home as a teenager.
Yeah.
And it was just me wanting to give back.
Yes.
And not knowing how, but there's people that just need people and need advocates.
Yes.
And everyone needs help, and it takes a village to just hone and be a part of somebody's process.
Absolutely. You're
because everyone's going through this same life experience the same way.
Yes.
So I never saw it as me, doing something out of normalcy. I just
that was
saw
just a part of who you were.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Interesting. To all of my guests here, now, based on what you have experienced, tell me what you all, and I'm going to start with Maria. Maria, have you heard people tell stories about services in different parts of the country being different, smaller areas being different, as far as for disabled people? Is Houston an anomaly? Is it just because it's a big city, it's got lots of services? Or what are some of the things that you've heard? And how can people possibly reach out to other coalitions in their area?
One main thing right now, I'm going to call it a hot topic right now. Housing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Housing.
Yeah.
We're having a lot of individuals from out of state coming here to Texas.
Yes.
And because apparently Texas is real easy, they're grabbing our vouchers and then going back to their state.
Can you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
How?
Once you come here, you can apply for a Section 8 voucher.
Yes.
And then transfer it to back over there.
Wow.
And then I'm hearing that, well,
is it legal?
If you're moving, yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Especially right now, you have to have a disability and in need of housing.
Right.
So it is legal because guess what? You are a body.
Yes.
And you're no longer residing here. So guess what? If you're moving, the voucher is moving with you.
Okay. So
because these other states are not, there's no such thing as an open list or nothing.
How can that be? You would think that. So basically what you're telling me is that from state to state, the services can vary greatly. And people hear about a state that has got that's very accommodating to people with disabilities, and they go to that state, make sure that they apply for and receive their services, and then go back to their home state.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
And then other countries will be like, with individuals with disabilities, oh, we don't have those kind of services where I'm from.
Yeah.
So they come here, and our services are working for them.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And they find a lot of services here in Texas that never existed, never heard of.
Yes.
And they'll really shut it in. And I'm talking about people with disabilities, such as myself.
Mm-hmm.
But it is easier.
That's so. Now, with it being easier, and I want to make sure that I understand this well, if someone is utilizing the system like that, which I'm not going to say it's unscrupulous, but it certainly is sort of circumvents having to go through a more difficult process in your state, does that somehow take a person who was waiting in Texas out of their line to be able to get access to a service?
It is unfair for us here in Texas. It is unfair. But
here's one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
Okay, is that as and Maria's right. I think the biggest thing is every service, every group of services when it comes to housing, especially, is different from state to state according to the laws as well.
Wow.
And so what happens is, and every housing voucher program is different.
Okay.
Every housing voucher program has different criteria that you need to meet.
Okay.
There are some programs where you where they'll pay your rent for a year with the expectation of you getting employment.
Okay,
to take care
right.
of yourself.
Okay, yes.
Then they also have the programs where Maria was talking about, called Section 8 vouchers, where the way that we would normally do it is make sure that that they have a disability and they're homeless, let's say, okay. And a lot of times, what happens is what I tell people when they're applying for vouchers,
yes,
is that you have to, number one, be honest with yourself and your situation.
Okay.
If you are not honest with yourself, I can guarantee you're not going to be honest with the person working with you.
Right. That's right.
And that's what makes it harder for a lot of Texans with disabilities, because let's say you have a lot of Texans with disabilities who may be in need of the services.
Yes.
But as the old saying goes, all it takes is one bad apple
to make
spoil
it
the whole barrel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what we try to do is let folks know, listen, continue to stay honest with your situation. Be honest throughout the process, because as long as you have a social security number, they're going to find out what they need to find out.
Right.
And so, and that's what we try to, and the purpose of that is to let them know how to advocate for themselves and how to, live a better life as a person with a disability.
Right.
Knowing that you don't have to dumb down who you are.
Exactly. Now, Maria and Jason, let me ask you this, because you brought up a really, really good point, and I was going to speak to that. And this may be something that is that may have to be open to our next set of guests next week. But the homeless population with a disability, how do they feed into being able to access services?
Many times that is it's pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, when you're homeless,
yeah.
and as we have known about people who are homeless, they have multiple addresses.
Yes.
They have multiple places where they can lay their head for a short period of time.
Right.
For those who have that access, because let's face it, not many of them do.
Right.
And many people who are homeless do not have great support systems when it comes to families.
That's right. That's right.
And that's the other hard part.
Yeah.
And so making sure that they have the services that they need in terms of accessibility, a lot of times is difficult, because the caseworkers who are working with them, when you try to stay in contact with them, a lot of times for some people it's virtually impossible.
That's right, because addresses and accessibility changes so often, and so many
phone numbers.
And so many times, that's absolutely right. And so many times you also have a situation where people are dealing with a mental illness on top of that, and that makes it just super, super difficult.
Yes.
All of the things that you are talking about as far as the coalition is concerned, I know that the coalition is a nonprofit organization, but any of the services and all of the services that are offered through the coalition, I know somebody is going to ask me that. And I'm going to bring Rebecca back in now, and let's see if she can hear me. I'm going to add Rebecca. There she is. I'm going to bring Rebecca back in. Coalition is nonprofit, but are all of the services that you all offer free of charge? Because that's going to be the first thing that people ask.
All of this, hear us clearly.
Yes.
Those of you who can hear the sound of my voice.
Yes.
All services that are offered through the Coalition for Barrier-Free Living are absolutely free of charge.
And one more question I have to ask you, and then Rebecca and I are going to look at some of those questions that have been asked, because we've got a whole bunch of them on there. But as far as age is concerned, if I have a child with a disability, are there services for children? Are there services for teens? Are there services expressly for the elderly? How does that work?
There are. We do serve all ages for the most part, and we do have services for youth, which will be touched on next week. Okay.
Rebecca, I know that you have to look in on some of those. Tell us about some of those comments that we need to address.
So where can this is from Frankie Watson. Where can our consumers go to get our services next week? Okay, so I think it's a two-part question. Where can our consumers go to get our services? That's one. And then next week we can talk more about the services that we can offer.
Right. And I think we addressed that one. Yes.
Okay.
What did Kim say?
The Kim said the practice that Maria mentioned may not be illegal, but it's unethical. It's certainly unethical. So I guess
Yeah.
Kim is talking about the ramps in the different
No,
buildings.
no,
But
I
I
think she's
thought
talking
if
about
it's a
people coming from other
public,
states. She's probably
oh,
talking
okay,
about people coming from other states
Right.
to access the services here in Texas.
okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, she clarifies it. So she does. She clarifies it in the next comment. This is great information. It's great to see the activism that the guests represent. Disabled activists were on the front line when the Affordable Care Act was in danger.
That's
Okay, I guess she didn't. And then Pamela Clark asked, she made a comment. She said they are providing individual experiences and perspective that the public can understand. Gretchen Stockstill,
That's okay. You
excellent
can just say the
point.
first name. Yeah.
Okay, Gretchen says finding your purpose in your gifts. Everybody is basically saying this is great information. This is information that the public needs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And while you're looking at those, let me say this. One thing that I want to stress when I actually spoke to Miss Frankie about the program today, one thing I want to stress is this, and Miss Frankie wants to stress this too. If there are people who are out there who want to become more involved in their own advocacy, in stepping up and empowering themselves, just like Maria said, she went to the coalition, and she just in going to the meetings, she found that there was something there just in networking that she was interested in, and she honed in on her computer skills, and 20 years later, here we are. So,
right.
there's absolutely no reason for anyone to keep a person or a family member or a friend to shield them away. There's no reason for people to be shielded away these days, because I know that some years ago, in the name of protecting people, they were, just like Jason said, in the name of protecting people, they weren't receiving access to a lot of the things that are out there for them. You see people with disabilities. There are people with disabilities who are running corporations.
Yes.
That does not impede a person from doing exactly what they want to do. And many other things. There are doctors and attorneys and lawmakers with disabilities these days. So that's not something that should impede a person. If you are someone who is living with a person with a disability, or if you are a person with a disability, you need to reach out to the coalition and see how you can connect. Now, I'm sure, and Jason and Maria and Anna can probably speak to this, I'm sure that if they do not provide that service there at their organization, they can direct you to where you can find services that you need.
And part of that too is knowing the organizations and resources that are in your community, because we also believe with networking with other organizations such as the United Way. And a lot of times what happens is, when we are looking for resources, we are thinking about those resources in terms of the needs of that individual, because every disability is different.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. Now, one thing that I do want to mention, we are going to have another group of guests here next week from the coalition, because what we're going to do is make sure that in this month, anyone who wants access, anyone who wants a barrier removed, there's not going to be any excuse why there is not a barrier removed due to a disability. Now that's next week. We are going to have program managers here. Jacqueline McFarland, Pamela Goodson from Brazoria Center, Pam Clark from Fort Bend, Annabelle Rios, and Gretchen Stockstill. They will communicate about all of the services. That's what we were talking about a little bit earlier. And I know that's a teaser because I want to know exactly what services there are out there too.
Y'all make sure to tune in now.
Yes, you definitely you gotta tune in. They're going to communicate about all of the services from CBFL. They will also come in and share about CORE services that they will provide. And these are managers and consumers, and they will tell you their stories. So, guys, one thing that's really great about the guests that we met today, all of their stories were completely different as to why they became or are affiliated with the coalition. And if people, Anna, I'm going to turn to you. If people want to reach out to support the coalition, if they have services that would be services that could be utilized by the coalition, or if they want to hire people who may come through the coalition, how would they reach out to you in order to connect?
Well, I do have the answer to that question. Yes, to connect, it's going to be real easy. We have a wonderful updated website, hcil.cc. There you can see our services, our event calendars updated monthly. There you can see what our other satellite offices have to offer. And there you can just stay engaged with what we have going on at hcil.cc. So I do welcome everybody to just join. And we do have a page where you can put in your information. And we also have a careers page where you can see different openings available at the Coalition for Barrier-Free Living.
So now you've got me kind of excited. So tell me about some of the upcoming things that are on the calendar. Now I know that January 3rd is very important. Tell me about January 3rd.
We're opening our doors to our amazing consumers. So we'll be back in business, guys, January 3rd at our new address, 11111 Wilcrest Green Drive. We'll be there to serve you, advocate for you, and to just be there as a support system to help you along the process.
So if someone who's invited? Is the public invited?
All consumers, yes. If you have a disability, if you want to learn more, we invite you to our offices. Give us a call. Look at our website.
Telephone number?
713-974-4621. That is Maria.
And Maria's going to answer the phone. Yes.
Maria will be picking up your phone call gladly. So you guys know about that.
So, and guys, remember you have a celebrity here. When you come out to the open house on the 3rd, you're going to see Maria. You'll see her in person, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you'll probably see Jason because he's going to be there.
Jason.
And you'll see Anna. So you can get their autograph if you want to. But
you're so kind.
But yes, everybody is definitely invited out to the open house. And I am going to make sure, and Miss Frankie, you can hold me to this. If it's not, and that is going to be at what time? Yes, what time?
So our open house actually passed.
Okay.
Our open house was December 15th.
But your services.
But our services continue to go on starting January 3rd
in person
at 8 a.m. We'll be in the office there to cater to our consumers.
Very good.
And our office hours are Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Now, if anyone wants to reach out to any of these individuals for a word of encouragement, to get some advice, or just to maybe have a mentor, if they wanted to reach out to you, Maria, how would they reach out to you? Do you have social media?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the center does.
Okay, yeah. So they can reach you through the center.
They can call 713-974-4621.
Yes.
And I will listen.
Yes.
And I will direct you to the appropriate coordinator.
Awesome.
Or I may take some time off and, take it on one-on-one.
Yes. Now, Jason, if anyone
Yes.
wanted to reach out to you, how would they reach out to you?
It'll be directly through the center. It'll be, again,
Yes.
it's the 713 number, the 974-4621. And I will be more than happy to answer any questions you have
Yes.
regarding any disability related questions.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we get calls where people just want to vent.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's okay.
And it's okay, because let's face it, all of us have been through a challenging time through this pandemic.
Yes.
All of us,
Yes.
whether it be directly or indirectly.
Yes.
And so it is so important to have that outlet to where people can talk to that person, because you never know how just that one phone call can make a huge difference in that person's life.
That's absolutely right.
And whether or not they choose to go on.
That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, just to hear that encouraging word sometimes is all that somebody needs.
Mm-hmm.
And Anna, if anyone, organization or individual needs to contact you regarding any service that the coalition has to offer, they would contact you through that same.
Correct. They can contact me at that same number, the 713-974-4621. And I'll be happy to answer any questions and to take any calls.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Now, if you have not gotten the information you need to at least make you very, very curious about what's coming next week, then I don't know what to say. But I would like to thank my guests, Maria Orozco, Jason Jones, and Ana. Is it Urena or Urena?
Urena.
Ana Urena. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Aww.
Thank you so much for coming on. And you guys have got to be tuning in, and I want you to comment next week during the show, definitely when the managers get here, because they're going to be able to really kind of open that book and really get into detail about what's offered through the coalition. Rebecca, did you have any parting words?
No, I just appreciate what you guys are doing for the disability community.
Yes.
Amen.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
My Facebook family coalition, thank you so much for joining me on my Crystal Loves Texas podcast. And Rebecca, even though you are not here in studio, like we say every week,
we can do it.
Absolutely. We'll see you next week, guys.
See you next week, y'all.
All right.